Hi, I'm Rob Cosman. Welcome to my shop. I've been asked numerous times to do a shop tour. Kept thinking, well, I'll wait until it's clean. That's never going to happen, so we can at least see the floor. It's either now or never. So, start here. Jake, come over here and just kind of have a look this way. I'll explain to you what this, how this came to be. Believe it or not, this used to be an indoor pool. It's the reason why the styrofoam on the walls and on the ceiling because of the moisture. Pool got destroyed, sat here. It's actually attached to my parents' house. That's what on the other side of that wall. Wasn't being used. We put half a floor over it, and eventually put the whole floor over it, and then when I came back from BYU, we put a shop in here, dug the basement out, poured a concrete floor. Anyway, so I've got, it's about 29 by 29, so I've got upstairs and most of downstairs. I'm always looking for more space. So this is the main floor with all the machinery, although we got quite a bit downstairs where we do a lot of production on tools. So I thought what I'd do is just kind of take you through and give you a little bit of a history behind each of these machines. This is my my edge sander. Friend Rex Birmingham told me I need to buy one. He said, you won't believe how much you use it, and true enough. Now mostly it gets used in tool production. But this one is Progress. It's apparently made in Canada. I bought it off a government website. I got a really good price on it, and it's great. And I would recommend that if you're in any kind of a production shop, you really need to have something like this. I have hundreds of drill presses. This is just another one of them. This is Jet, came from Woodcraft. So in this corner, we just finished these base cabinets, and this was our latest project in our power tool workshop that we film 3 times a week. So there's a bank of drawers on that side, and there's a bank of drawers on this side. Now the reason why these ones aren't done, we don't film the entire process because it would be boring. So this is just going to be a duplication of this. The drawers are birch on the front with pine sides. The dovetail comes through. Just a box and a hole. No hardware of any sort. Most of the stuff in here is drilling related. And then these doors, now I just barely got the handle, so I haven't got on there yet. But the doors are solid birch doors, and you may like the way I use that, you know, the heartwood and the sapwood on the 3 doors. This one goes way in back. This is all small power tools. These ones are designed with the doors that go all the way back so that if I want to convert these to slide-out shelves, sorry for the phone, but working shop. This one, the shelves come out. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to put in there, but we needed a project. The top is a piece of 1-inch MDF that is just sprayed with lacquer. Excuse me. This up on top is just an old furnace blower that I decided to turn into an air filter. So it's the blower's inside the box, blows out through here, and this is just a furnace filter that it sucks air through, and I can't believe how much dirt it gets. And that was going in my lungs, so fortunately now it's going into the filter. I have several of them. In fact, I've got another one up here. This is a Powermatic I got from Woodcraft. It's nice and quiet. I have one downstairs as well, and this is the stuff that gets the really fine dust. You got to pay attention to that stuff if you plan to do this for any amount of time. This is a made by a company in England. Can you unplug that or shut it off completely? This is made in England. It's Wadkin Bursgen. It is 16. Yeah, it's a dual 16-inch. Real heavy-duty machine, absolutely fantastic. I keep a 120 grit on one side and an 80 grit on the other. It takes a bit to wind up, but when it gets going, you can't slow it down. The only thing I don't like about it is the dust collection. It could be a whole lot better. It's got 2-inch ports that are connected to my main dust collector downstairs that I'll show you when we get down there, but it just doesn't have enough. It almost needs its own dust collector in order to be effective at keeping the dust out of the air. I built my dust collecting system from a bunch of stuff that I salvaged, and I'll show you that as I mentioned when we go downstairs. I guess we'll kind of walk around this way. I love old machines. I would buy old machines anytime over new. This is an old Delta disc belt sander, 6x48. Runs nice and smooth. Use mostly this for doing the brass on the on our dovetail saws. So one gets for wood, one gets used for wood, one gets used for metal. This, I didn't realize how much I would use a oscillating spindle sander. but I use it a lot, particularly now that we do, actually we should come over here and see some of these. We now do wood handled dovetail saws. So there they are in various states of production. Now this is this guy for a really big fat hand. Of course, I'm kidding. This is out of walnut, and I'll slice that and get 3 handles out of it, so it'll be a nice match set. I've got a couple of them. Here's a really pretty one. This is a piece of maple burl. Really wild stuff. This is one of our standard ones. This is a piece of Fiddleback Maple. This is Gaboon Ebony. This is a piece of Cocobolo. First time I found some Cocobolo thick enough. This is a piece of Moon Ebony. It's kind of cool because you've got black on one side and white on the other. What else have we got? This is one of my favorite woods to work with. This is Torrefied bird's eye. So it's bird's eye maple that they cook or they heat up and they keep it at a certain temperature and lack of oxygen, no oxygen, so it doesn't consume the wood, but it gives it that patina that you would typically get after several hundred years. Really pretty stuff. And this one is help me with that. Check-to-coat, which is a red pinkish wood. Really nice stuff. First time I've been doing any with that particular wood. And then our standby are bird's eye. And I love bird's eye. Actually playing around with the idea of inlaying the bolt, which is a whole lot of extra work, and I don't know whether it's going to be worth it or not. You can tell me. Here's we also do a large handle. So for those who have a huge paw, there's our standard. This is in white oak. There's our standard handle, and then there's our large. So if you put them side by side, you can see how much bigger the large is. Don't get very many calls for these, but we offer it if you've got a really big paw. Okay, this is my General 20-inch thickness planer. General was a company out of Drummondville, Quebec, that built their business providing woodworking equipment for public schools. So it had to be rugged, it had to be very simple to use, and easy to maintain, and it's true to the word. Unfortunately, they closed this operation, this part of the business, about 3 or 4 years ago. There's still a lot of it around. And I always tell people, if you're going to buy old equipment, the only thing that ever goes are belts, bearings, and motors. All 3 are easy to replace. Great workhorse. It has a 5 horsepower motor on it. This is a little tidbit you may want to know. I changed the head on this and I put on the segmented head made by Bird. So that's little chiclets. Actually, come over here real quick and I'll show you what I mean. Normally you would have a straight knife, 3 or 4. Instead, this Bird head has several little chiclets. These 3/4 inch blades, they're sharp on 4 sides, so when one gets dull or gets nicked, you simply loosen that screw, rotate it, and it dials itself right into place. It's very quiet, very smooth, amazing what it'll do on figured wood. But it takes more horsepower because there's always a blade in the wood, unlike a 3-knife head, which once one knife leaves, it gives a chance for the motor to get caught up before the next knife engages the wood. This one always has a knife in the wood. I figure it probably takes an extra 1/3 in horsepower in order to get the same capacity. So this has got a 5-horse single phase on it, and I just recently got a 7.5 horse, so I'm going to switch that out sometime in the next little while. Great machine, and hooked up to my central dust collecting, which is essential, because before I had my central dust collecting, this place would be you couldn't work in here. It's so dusty. So this takes some explaining. This is my main bench. It's made out of mahogany and maple, and with bird's eye maple accents. It's patterned after a traditional Scandinavian vise with a minor modification. This is what we call a traditional shoulder vise. And what I love about this is there are no obstructions down here. So you can you can put your board in there. If there's a slight cup in it, it lays it flat, holds it firmly, never racks, can't. The other nice thing about this, I have a trapdoor. Not many people have ever seen this right here. So if I've got a really long board, I can drop it down there. I can probably dovetail the end of a 12-foot board at regular height, which is a wonderful feature about having your shop on the 2nd floor, or digging a real big hole underneath your bench. The modification is this. Instead of a traditional tail vise, and I'll show you what that is on my other bench, this is what's called a wagon wheel vise. And it's nice, just so easy to build, and I think it has all the features of a traditional tail vise, but just so much easier to build. It also has what's called a double start thread on this rod. So whereas a normal vise would require 4 to 6 revolutions per inch, this moves an inch with 1 revolution. So it's nice and fast. Also reduces the amount of torque so that you're not wrecking your bench, or somebody that's using your bench not knowing isn't wrecking your bench. So that's the bench. This is where it all happens. What you see behind me is a prototype of my cabinet. This is one of the ongoing projects in our power tool workshop. I built this out of plywood and pine, aspen, whatever I had. As a working prototype, it's gone through various changes, modifications to make it so that it was user-friendly. The idea was that once we were satisfied, then we would go ahead and start to build the real thing. So this is the first section. It's going to be done in 6 sections. 3 along the bottom, 3 along the top. Actually, it's going to be 7, because I'm going to put a trophy case up on top of here. Let me explain this in a second. So here's the first completed piece. This is made out of, just like the bench, mahogany and maple with bird's eye maple accents. So all of the faces have really nice bird's eye, mahogany feet. This is going to be slots for various shooting boards. This is, see if I can move this a little bit. We're in the process of actually building the center section right now, and we had to have this out in order to be able to match up where it's going to meet over here. So if I can pull some of this together. So this slide out would come out, and this is all my drilling apparatus, mostly hand tool related. In fact, everything on this is going to be hand tool. We'll find somewhere to put our power tools. All the pieces in here are all made out of bird's eye and finished with lacquer. Now I decided to have the dovetails come all the way through as a feature. Alan Peters is my mentor, and he really made this popular, and you can only get away with it in certain applications, but he was a master at doing that. So back over here. This is all self-explanatory. I mean, we've got a saw till, just makes it so that you have access to all this space as well. If you didn't, you'd be having to lift that up and you couldn't have anything here. And then in behind my chisels are all the carving chisels. Don't get to use nearly as much, but have access to them when I do need them. And there's pull-outs on both sides, so kind of matches. This is where all my saws go. All my hammers, nail sets, mallets, and all my measuring tools, level, winding sticks, panel gauge. And then over here, just had to figure out a way to hold everything we needed. Here are all my files. There are all my Oreo rasps. And then screwdrivers. Here's all my various screws, all the different sizes, from a number 4 right up to number 12s. I just haven't finished those. Remember, this is prototype. And over here, various things. All my dovetailing tools here, extra blades in here, whatever. Down here, now these are mechanical drawer guides on this one, but on the actual one, there'll be an actual drawer in a box in a hole like we did over there on the cabinets. And then various stuff is kept in there. Now this is my shrine. So if you don't know about our Purple Heart project, you need to find out. Just do a search on Rob Cosman Purple Heart project, where we bring wounded, disabled veterans into Niagara Falls, Ontario. We do that 4 times a year. We bring 6 civilians that pay their own way. That enables us to bring in 6 vets. We, along with some donors, cover all their airfare, their hotel, their meals, and we send them each home with $2,000 worth of tools so they can continue to do this when they get home. It's very therapeutic. If you haven't, you got to try it. So here's Colonel Luther, who is, Jake's my right-hand man. Colonel Luther is my right-hand, I'm going to say woman, but we don't want to say that. Colonel Luther is he's what makes this whole thing happen. He does all the vetting. He deals with the vets. It's just absolutely fantastic. We couldn't do it without him. So this is one of the classes we had, and each guy in the class gave Colonel Luther his patch that he was last attached to, and they sewed it on and presented me this apron. So it's become a tradition now. So the last class we taught, and then this Sorry, but this is Natalie's. It keeps coming off. Got to keep getting it glued back on. She was our first wounded female veteran. So anyway, there's a story behind all these, and if I took this off, each one of them signed it in behind it. So, who gave me the Army hat? That was Philip Gustafson in New York Army. Gave me the hat, and then I know Roger Suiters gave me the Marine plaque. Did he give me the cap as well? I think he did. Anyway, Mark, who was in the Army Special Mark was at Navy EOD, Explosive Ordnance Disposal, and he made this for me. So even though I'm a Canadian, I appreciate veterans no matter where they're from. This is Jesse, one of our Canadian. We only ever had 2 Canadian vets come to our class, and Jesse sent me the flag as well as the mug. Philip, this was his first ever dovetail, and it's absolutely incredible. In fact, he gave it to me and let me bring it home. I was amazed. This is Marshall Rommel. If you want a kid to join the military, you name him Marshall Rommel. Marshall's a Marine out in the Seattle area, Washington, and he had an excellent dovetail too. He gave me that one. And various other stuff around here. It's all has meaning, so it's on our wall of fame here. Now, let's keep moving. Cabinets. This is I love wood, so there's wood everywhere. This is the mahogany that we're going to use for building on that. Clamps are always a problem. I got thousands of them, and you could always use 1,000 more, but storing them is difficult. So I've got some pipe clamps that are close at hand here. I've got a whole bunch more downstairs. We're going through some blades. So this place is always in turmoil because there's always work going on. We're constantly building tools. We're constantly filming and building furniture. So this is the end of part 1. But let me say this. As a starving craftsman trying to feed a large family building furniture, I was born 100 years too late, I never had time to worry about or even think about building nice things in the shop. It was whatever made do. All the good work went out the door, hopefully getting paid for it. So the fact that we're actually able now to spend some time building nice bench, nice cabinets is makes it so much easier to work in here. All right, when we come back to part 2, we're going to do the other half of the top of the shop, then we're going to do part 3 downstairs. So we'll see you in a bit.